Need link building or content? Go to fatjoe.com. On-demand marketing services for agencies and teams. Fat Joe.
Hi everybody, I'm Sarah. I'm not going to go and read that massive long title again because it will take up most of my time. So let's get started. Oh, silly me. So let's get started with what is culture. So you've probably all heard of culture, but don't really know what it is as such. So the official definition of culture is social behavior, institutions, norms, knowledge, beliefs, laws. Lots of different things go into what makes up culture, and it's normally attributed to a particular region, particular country, or particular location. So if you take a look at actually how culture impacts things, let's take a look at the country mapping tool by Erin Meyer. You're probably taking a look at that and thinking, what the hell does that have to do with SEO and why is it important? But if you take a look at the top, you can see communication. The way people communicate is really important because when you're writing marketing copy, you have to make sure that, it resonates with people in different countries. So in the US, you have people who are low context communicators. That means when you write marketing copy, going to be low context. Whereas you have people in India who likes high context communication. So that means you have to go into a lot more detail when you do your content. And you actually have to adapt kind of the way you're writing your marketing message, the way you're writing your SEO landing pages to make sure that it's low context, high context, and it resonates with people. Just to take this a little bit further, you've got Hofstede's cultural dimensions. Hofstede was a sociologist, and what he did was put together these 6 cultural dimensions to help people kind of measure how people in different countries behave and how they act. I only have 20 minutes, so I'm not going to go into all of this in too much detail. I do have some downloads for after the session, so I'll share that all with you. But let's take uncertainty avoidance index as an example. So this means, are people in a particular country likely to, take risks? Do they like uncertainty, or do they not? Now, this is really important because, say, you're doing marketing for, say, a loan provider, investment, something that's classed as a little bit more risky. If you do that in China, it's not going to go down as well as in a country that's kind of more open to taking risks. So understanding these cultural insights will actually allow you to kind of target or tailor your ads to make it kind of more resonant. And here you can see it in practice. So you've got these 4 countries. You've got Brazil, China, Germany, and United States. And you can see that they've got such different numbers, that they're all so different culturally. So again, even if you're writing content in English, should be localizing, as the other 2 ladies have said. But no matter what language you're writing in, you have to make sure that it resonates, and you have to make sure it fits into their culture as well. Now, do I have any psychologists in the room? Anyone who studies psychology? Yay, that's great. So you know Vygotsky, he's an absolute babe, and he was basically a pioneer of developmental psychology. And he has his social cultural theory, which stated that human development results from dynamic interaction between individuals and society. Now, to put that in simple terms, culture isn't just something that you kind of grow up with and start behaving in that particular way. Theorists actually believe that culture starts right from the very beginning, the minute you're born. So it's really, really important. So now let's look at what this means in real life. So we all work in business. I guess lots of you, if you're here, you do international business as well. So culture plays a part in international communication, international negotiations, international management, and also international marketing. With international communication, you have to be really aware that what might be considered polite in one country could be considered really rude in another. And that's not just for communication, you're talking about verbal communication, you're talking about non-verbal, and you're also talking about etiquette. So to give you an example, if you took a business card from a Japanese person, if you wrote notes on a business card, that would be sacrilege to a Japanese person. Don't do it. Whereas in the UK, if we're here, writing notes on a business card is absolutely fine to help you remember what happened at a conference. And it's the same with international negotiation as well. So how you negotiate depends on where you come from. In the UK here, if you're doing a business deal, for example, you shake hands at the end. That means that you're done, you've made a deal, finished. Whereas if you're in the Middle East, you actually shake hands at the start of the negotiation, so you can understand where some of these miscommunications could actually come from. With international management as well, like SEO companies, lots of international companies have teams in lots of different countries. So it's really important to be sensitive to cultural differences amongst your teams, because you can have arguments between team members because they might think, oh, he's being rude to me, when actually he's being extremely polite for what he thinks in his culture. And most importantly, international marketing. You really, really need to understand how people think to be able to market them, your products effectively. So what does this mean for SEO? You really, really need to get inside the mind of your international target audience, and you need to understand their needs and motivation from a cultural perspective in order to actually do keyword research, write content, do all of those lovely things that matter for SEO. So let's take this a little bit further. You probably think, oh, language is just taking one language, content from one language to another, but actually there's a lot more to it. Language also means identity. So let's take a trip home, for me, to Northern Ireland and look at the Irish language. You're probably thinking, oh, it's just a language, it's just Irish. Not quite so simple. So the language has become politicized because of the Troubles, because of the Good Friday Agreement, and it's also caused tensions between communities, because people who identify as British think that it undermines the union, and people who identify as Irish think that it's their right to speak Irish on the island of Ireland. That's hard to say. Restricting the use of Irish has also been used as a control mechanism against nationalists. So again, be careful with your language. It's the same with, for example, Kurds in northern Iraq. It means a lot to people, not just words. So why should we care? As I just said, it demonstrates the link between language and identity and the need for cultural understanding. Now, I need some involvement on this one. Spot the problem. Why did Just Eat's orange branding cause controversy in Belfast? Exactly. So you have the two colours, which kind of are used by the two fractions up in Northern Ireland. You either identify with green or orange. So by having orange branding, something really simple, something innocent, it's just orange. But it actually caused offence because they were thinking like, oh, you're associating with half the population, not the other one. And Orange, the phone provider, actually had issues with this as well, because they went out with a slogan saying the future is bright, the future is orange. This was like 10 years ago, and people still make jokes about it today. So, moving on, let's look at culture and buyer behaviour. So, my second home, the Czech Republic. Let's take a look at how communism shaped buyer behaviour. We hate to admit it, we'll never admit it, but actually it's true. So, back in communist times, people didn't have resources. Things were hard to come by. Had to bribe people sometimes to get stuff that you wanted. So if something broke, you had to fix it. Czechs nowadays are really resourceful. So if you have a product that, say, breaks really easily, people are not going to like it. They're going to shame you. They're never going to buy it again. Also, people are very kind of price focused. So again, they're not going to buy based on loyalty. They're going to buy based on price. So that's just a couple of examples of how culture can play a part, not even just culture, but history can play a part in how people behave and how they spend and how they buy. And of course, that impacts SEO as well. So here's my local supermarket. You can see these lovely little magazines that you get that are sent around every week showing what's in the sale. People actually go through these, they study them, you get one for each supermarket, and they'll drive around to different shops, and actually decide, oh, washing powder's cheaper in Kaufland, I'll buy it there. Oh, chocolate's cheaper in Tesco, I'll buy it there. You can see that people actually wait outside the supermarkets on sale days, and people have actually got in fights in Lidl's over the stuff in the sale. And here you can see the example here of actually what happens when something is in the sale. Everyone buys it, no one cares about all the other stuff that's not in the sale. So again, you have to understand how people buy in order to market to them, because if you go out with a product or keywords or content that's about like really high-end stuff, people in the Czech Republic want a good deal. And again, let's look at this in SEO terms. You can see all of the different keywords. I've compared cheap keywords and quality keywords. There are 218,000 or more than keywords that include cheap, but only 36,000 that include quality. So again, you can use keyword research that's actually done in market, not translated, to give you loads of insights into kind of what sort of things would work well for your campaigns. For example, Germans, they like really long tail keywords, lots of detail in their content. And again, if you do short little keywords that you're used to in English, it's not going to resonate with your audience. So I think I've kind of already explained what this means for SEO, but again, understand their culture, understand why people buy, do everything in country rather than translating, and you'll get much better results. And this also kind of moves on a little bit to diversity and inclusion as well. And sometimes people have unconscious bias. So unconscious bias is when you have biases that maybe you don't think you actually have, but it impacts how you do your marketing. One thing that I see quite a lot is people saying to me, but the Czech Republic's a poor country. It used to be communist. They can't have the money to do that. When actually the buyer behavior is buyer purchasing power is actually really, really good. And it comes as well, it goes into even the ads that you see. Back in the day, before everyone, lots of different countries were more diverse, yeah, okay, have a white family with 3 kids in your ads. But people actually want to see kind of things that reflect their society. So you have pictures with 2 dads, 2 kids, or an African-American family in the US for Coke. Just be careful with this though, because remember, what kind of the makeup is in your country is not necessarily the same in different countries. So for example, in the Czech Republic, there's a big Vietnamese population. If you want to be more diverse, maybe feature Vietnamese people rather than people of color, because it would resonate with them a lot more. And then neurodiversity. So I'm autistic, and even though I come from a country that might be lower context, I communicate, I need high context. I'm absolutely shit at reading between the lines. I don't get it, never gonna happen. So if you're doing content, for example, helping more neurodiverse people get into work, something that's more geared up to an autistic audience, go for high context. Don't assume that because they're from a low context country like America, they're gonna communicate that way. And now let's take one look at ethnic marketing. So ethnic marketing is actually where you're marketing inside your country to ethnic minorities that live inside your country rather than people who live abroad. And it's a really, really great way of, sticking closer to home, getting people to feel special. So I'll give you an example. Shavuot is a Jewish festival, and it's celebrated by eating dairy. If somebody sent me dairy cheesecake on Shavuot, I would love their brand forever. If somebody gave me 50% off cheesecake for Shavuot, don't speak anymore. I will come back to them time and time and time again. And it's the same in the US as well. You have Hispanic marketing power. They have a purchasing power of $1.7 trillion US. And again, it's a great way to make sales. And as well, the UK has quite a big Polish community. On Fat Thursday, the Thursday before Lent, people like to indulge in donuts. So if you, say, did marketing for Tesco's, if you had Polish staff in-house, if you had Polish clients, send them donuts for Fat Thursday. They'll love you forever. And now let's take a look, before we finish, at some real-life examples. So here's some bedding. It looks pretty innocent. What can go wrong with bedding? Unfortunately, in the Czech Republic, I can tell which companies haven't done their research because they go out with really tiny pillowcases, whereas in the Czech Republic, we have this massive pillowcase, which is almost kind of that big. They're always, the ones that haven't done their research are always in the sale. Nobody who can buy them, because let's be honest, who's going to go and buy a new pillow because you like the duvet covers and stuff? You're not. Another example, a UK company wanted to go out with some blog posts about pests. So they decided to do some content about foxes. The only problem is, in Eastern Europe, foxes are still they're not very urbanized. We kind of have more issues with moles rather than foxes. So what they really needed to do, and what we suggested they do, is ditch the article about foxes, never going to resonate, never going to work, write content about moles instead, boom, sorted. Another one, Ride-On Lawnmower Company, they wanted to do a campaign that targeted the average Czech. What they didn't realise is lots of people live in blocks of flats that look a bit like this. So they're going to look a little bit silly driving around on their lawnmowers and driving down the roads. You know, yeah, don't do it. And again, you have Pringles, who decided to go out with smoky bacon flavoured crisps for Ramadan. I don't need to say anymore, not a good look. You know, do your research. Muslims don't eat pork. And then let's finish off with some good examples. So films are really, really great when it comes to localization because you can see that, for example, they adapt. So here you can see ice hockey, rest of the world gets football. In the US, Buzz Lightyear is standing in front of an American flag. Rest of the world, he stands in front of, I don't know, a globe, something different. So that's it. Thank you very much. If you have any questions or you're interested about how Argos can help you, again, not that Argos, Argos Multilingual, send me an email. I'm not a big Twitter person, so feel free to find me on LinkedIn. I'll share a lot more on there. And also I put my slides and some ebooks on these topics, so you get a bit more detail on SlideShare. So, thank you.
Need link building or content? Go to fatjoe.com. On-demand marketing services for agencies and teams. Fat Joe.